say about 100. We used to play and have fun, and it's honestly one of the best jobs I could have fallen into because my business kind of picked me, I didn't pick it. So the first thing I wanted to talk to you about was really following your own path. And so just before I get started, I want to warn you guys about a couple of things. Number one, I'm sick. So if my voice goes out, just give me a second, I'll get back on track. Number two, I'm like a lot of other entrepreneurs, I'm easily distracted. So there might be points in my speech where I think of something that I think is really important for you to know, and so I'll probably backtrack, just like I'm changing my presentation now, just because I want you to get the most value out of what I have to say. So following your own path, I think authenticity is so important. I think it's important to really own who you are and what you want to do. So a couple things about myself, and I'm going to ask you guys to kind of relate in a second. One of the reasons I chose entrepreneurship was because I have an unemployable personality. I don't like to follow directions. I ask a lot of questions, which in previous years when I had a boss wasn't always beneficial to my career. And I'm really lazy. I like to work from my bed. Like, entrepreneurship is one of the only careers that you can have where you can lay on the bed and work from your laptop. So those are really important things to me. And most entrepreneurs are like, oh yeah, I work 80 hours a week and I'm just like killing it. And that's just not always what I'm about. And so I think it's really important to be authentic. Like, we get really wrapped up in the Facebook and the MySpace, what used to be MySpace, and the Google and all of this. And entrepreneurship isn't always about the billion-dollar sellout. Sometimes it's just about the lifestyle that you really want to live. So I have an idea of who you guys are and who I'm talking to. Everyone stand up real quick. So I need to kind of see, I hate when people raise their hands because like everybody kind of raises their hand and then I don't really know what's going on. So stay standing if you own a business. Okay, awesome. Stand up if you want to own a business. Okay, great. And stand up if you have a passion for anything in life, just in general, if you have something that you really enjoy doing. Okay. So that, I really hope that's everybody, but if it isn't, that's okay. Be authentic to who you are. Okay, you can sit down. Alright, I just wanted to make sure that at least, 99% of the people in the room could relate to what I'm going to be talking about, and that's about being an entrepreneur and entrepreneurship. So if you already own a business, I hope that some of the challenges that I've gone through and experienced are relatable to you, and that hopefully you can not make all the same mistakes I've made. If you want to own a business, same thing. I hope I can encourage you to take a risk and to really step out on a ledge and pursue a dream. And then if you have a passion for anything, then you might not consider yourself an entrepreneur, but you are. Because really, if you have a passion for service, for helping people in any way, then there's an opportunity for you to be an entrepreneur. So on Follow Your Own Path, I want to talk about the kind of what I talked about before about the Facebooks versus the smaller companies like myself. So I started my company as a sophomore at VCU in 2008. And I didn't have any money. I was a college student. I didn't have any business experience. I hadn't even gotten into my business classes of my major. But for the first time in my life, well, not in my life, but the first time since I had started working, I didn't have a job. And I was transferring from Kansas City, Missouri, back to Virginia, my home state, and I had no way of making money. I had no way of supporting myself. And I'm not good with being broke. So I knew I had to figure something out to make some type of income. So a family friend told me to start a business, and while that sounded really easy, it wasn't as easy as she made it sound. So I decided to teach cheerleading because that's something I'd already done for years. And by the way, if you're looking to start a business, that's the easiest type of business to start, is to teach people what you already know how to do. So I started to teach cheerleading, and it started as a completely local program where we partnered with gyms and schools and dance studios and all these different businesses that were already working with our target market, and we would add cheerleading classes. So my first year, it didn't go that well. I made $600. But I had to make the decision if I was going to go and really find a job, or if I was going to continue to grow. Because if you can get one person to buy into your idea, chances are there are other people who are going to buy into it as well. So I went back to the drawing board. I figured out how we could better partner and how we could raise our prices and how we could target our market better, and I decided to keep going. So I continued to grow my business. It did about double each year. So even leaving college, I wasn't making that much money, but I just knew I didn't want to get a job. So I decided to continue to go on, and then finally last year, I found a location, and I'm going to talk more about this in other parts of my presentation, but the key here is that it started as something really small. It started completely part-time. It started while I was in college. It started while I had no resources, no money, no formal education. People get so wrapped up in these things that they think that they have to have, and the check marks and the check boxes of what a real entrepreneur looks like. And I'm not that at all. And so I want to encourage you that if you have a business, or you want to start a business, or you have a passion for serving others, that you don't get wrapped up in all of what the newspapers and magazines and the TV shows say about being an entrepreneur. So I'm going to go backwards and talk about embracing your journey. So again, going back to media portrayal of entrepreneurship, we all think that the big payoff is the billion-dollar sellout at the end of starting your company. And for a lot of people, that should be their goal. But that's not everybody's goal, and you have to be okay with that. For me, it's not my goal. I don't care if I ever sell my company. We will eventually franchise and expand, and I like building things, so that works for me. But my goal is not a billion-dollar payoff, and so it's really important to just be okay with that. I came to the realization a couple, maybe months ago, that it was really important for me to not look at my business and my journey as an entrepreneur as a destination. It's really honestly a journey. There's going to be the ups and the downs, and the startup challenges, and then the growing challenges. But there's no final goal that I'm probably ever going to reach, and that's probably the characteristic that defines entrepreneurs the most. Even if you sell out of your company, there's always going to be something else that you're going to want to go do, something else you're going to want to achieve. It's part of our DNA. We get bored quickly, we want to move on to other projects, we're easily distracted. So don't look at it as this big looming goal that you have to achieve. Look at it more as an opportunity to grow within yourself. When I started my company, my biggest critic was my dad. My biggest supporter was my mom, but I could hear the challenges that my dad brought to me. And I bring that up because I think it's really important to figure out how you're going to deal with those words of failure that you hear from yourself and that you hear from other people. So I had to figure out how to build a team of people who could believe in me before I had the strength to believe in myself. It took a long time. It took a lot of feeling that I was being fake in some way. And I think a lot of young entrepreneurs go through that feeling where people say that you're doing a really good job and they're proud of you and they're your cheerleaders, but they don't necessarily see it from your perspective. I think as an entrepreneur, there's always this part of you that really wants to do more and really compares yourself to everything that you hoped to have. So that's one of the biggest keys of advice I can give to everybody, is to find a team that not only will be your cheerleader, but will also give you the support that you need when you are able to yet believe in yourself. Some of my team members, it took me years to find. So I started my company in 2008, and I didn't get my first co-owner until 2013, so last year. And it was a girl that I grew up with, Sama, and we went through elementary, middle school, and high school together. We cheered on the same teams, and we were friends, but we weren't friends. Like, we knew each other, but we weren't close. So I didn't have that experience of risking a friendship, but we knew each other well enough that I was comfortable getting into business with her. But it took me a really long time to find that person, to find the person that really complimented me in every way. And it took me going through a lot of people that didn't work. It took me asking my best friend and that not working out. It took me hiring and spending a lot of money on people that just didn't work out. So finding your team might take you a really long time, but once you find the right person, it takes your business to another level. And one of the people I had to find was a mentor. So I am not going to put my mentor on the spot, but you have to be so dedicated to what you want that no doesn't exist to you. And part of what I needed was somebody who was a similar entrepreneur, similar business owner, and someone who could give me the advice that I needed to take my business to the next level. And through a series of connections, I found this one particular person. And of course, he's busy, he has a lot going on, like, there was really, he was gonna have to take a big risk on me to spend his time, his money, his effort on helping me. So I emailed this guy, and I got no response. And I was like, okay, well, you know, it's the first email, it's fine. So I emailed him again, and I still got no response. And then I emailed him a third time, and I got no response. So by this time, I'm kind of like, well, do I have the right email address? Like, what's going on? So then I decided to get on his website. I looked at his website, found all the contact information for anybody who could possibly put me in touch with this man. And I'm calling and calling, I got no response. So at this point, I'm feeling kind of like a stalker, because it's like I've been trying for the last several months and I'm not getting any response. But I knew I couldn't find any other entrepreneur that was in my space that knew exactly what I was going to need to do to take my business to the next level. So I knew it had to be this person. So finally, I'm like, well, everybody has a Facebook. Like, I'll search him on Facebook. So I searched him and I messaged him and I got a response, and I asked him for 5 minutes of his time just to ask him a couple questions. And from there, this really awesome relationship grew. And in a year, it took my business to a level that it probably would have taken me 5 years to grow to. So he was indirectly saying no to me, but that, I just couldn't accept that. Even now, there are so many times when the answer is no. So we're looking for a second location in Loudoun County. And Loudoun County, in particular, Leesburg, is a pretty small place. And there's maybe 5 flex spaces available in commercial real estate in the area. And this one became available a couple weeks ago, and I found it because I was like driving around looking for phone numbers, trying to find it. So I found this one building, and it has a sign in it. It's kind of like, doesn't really fit what we want it to fit, but I called the guy, and he's like, okay, sure, I'll show it to you. So, long story short, because I'm running out of time, they offer us an amazing deal. They offer us like 50% off the first year rent, and like just